a brief recap that may be of some insight. And in fact, case study based teaching and research is another area which I just would like to share for today mainly. Right. All of us are aware about the COVID-19 pandemic, and in fact, we are just fighting for it. Every nation is joining hands together to have a better solutions. In the meantime, building competitive nation is another important area of concern for all of us, and that's why we have to just see to it how India can become a global superpower in the next few years down the line. That is another area which we can see to it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today's effort is a tomorrow's future. So whatever is the effort we have just taken up today, that definitely will give about tomorrow's future. And India, as such, is envisioning to become one of the prominent knowledge superpower in the years to come. So that is what we have. And for that, I just would like to have a brief recap of the understanding the major agendas which we have in the National Education Policy 2020. It has so much of debate on the pros and cons and challenges in the implementation, etc., etc. That we know it. But some of the recaps which we can just see to it in this NEP 2020 is India to become a global knowledge superpower. That's for sure. That is what we are just going to do that. And by 2025, 50% of the learners shall have exposure to the vocational education. Starting from class 6 onwards, it will be having exposure to the vocational education. That is one of the major agenda we have. And at the same time, we are also just having gross enrollment ratio in higher education to be increased from 26.3% to 50% by 2035. That means today is 2020, 2021. So in the next 15 years down the line, we are to reach 50% of gross enrollment ratio in higher education. That's a big challenge today. And that's why we are to see to it how we can increase the enrollment in the higher education. That is one part. And by 2040, all higher educational institutions are to become multidisciplinary institutions. That means not a single entity imparting a single discipline kind of a thing. It should be multidisciplinary. So agriculture, even the farmers, the technical, it should have amalgamation of various streams of study. And in fact, one Meru, multi-educational research universities. Universities are also now having graded autonomy. That means colleges of teaching colleges and teaching university and research universities kind of a thing. So that's why just like the IITs, IIMs, a multidisciplinary, this one, education research universities should be made available in all the districts. That is the kind of a vision 2020 is giving. And another area of concern is to take care of the skilled manpower requirement to meet the Industry Revolution 4. That means the kind of a data analytics, the artificial intelligence, the blockchain technologies, the Internet of Things are coming up. And that's why the entire dynamics of industry is changing. And for such kind of a changing things happening in the industrial arena, what could be the requirement of the manpower? Accordingly, we are to train them, we are to provide the right kind of a skill set. That's a big challenge. Well, there are other areas we have about the establishment of startup, incubation center, integration of the professional educations, agriculture, legal, health, two as a one entity of universities of multidisciplinary, integration of ICT, NETF, MOOCs, online, and so many other courses offered in the SWAYAM and others could be encouraged so that there could be a greater access of this higher education. And at the same time, NEP 2020 has spelled out about the internationalization of the higher education. That means that Indian universities can also go outside the country, and at the same time, some of the foreign universities may also be invited to come and operate in the Indian soil, so that there could be a peer competition in the higher education sector. That is how we can gain the quality education in the years to come. Yes, there is a radical transformation coming up in the regulatory system. HECI is one, and that they are having 4 articles. They are just working on that. And multidisciplinary education, pedagogy, curriculum, evaluation, delivery. These are very important areas. In fact, today, innovative approaches in teaching, engineering, technical, and management is also part of this kind of a pedagogy changes that are to be taken place in the domain of NEP 2020. And in fact, in NEP 2020, giving emphasis on the creativity of the students, how we can nurture the creativity of the young minds, irrespective of the streams of study they are having, maybe engineering study or the technical, arts, or humanities. Any hidden talent students are having, they should get ample opportunity to nurture such kind of a talent hiding inside these individuals. That's why multidisciplinary approach in the study is again another area of concern in the NEP 2020. That's why we are supposed to look into these areas of how we can get utmost benefit from such kind of things. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are some areas of concern for NEP 2020, just a gist of the understanding. The vocational studies and skill education, that is the one we have to see to it, because 50% of the students should get vocational exposure by 2035. That means next 15 years down the line, we are to provide all these things. Yes, CBSE had started providing some sort of a vocational things, but there is no proper linkages for the upward mobility of the vocational studies some years back. But of late, UGC has already introduced about the VPOC and MPOC programs in different streams of studies and trades. Then there can be a proper linkages of the vocational education up to the higher education master's degree and the research areas too. Then multiple entry, multiple exit at the UG level, that is there. And there are so many other transformation in the regulatory system, MOOCs, online, these things are there. And one important thing is targeted expenditure at 6% of the GDP. That is also one area of concern. I want to skip all these areas, not much of concern. I will be focusing more on some other policy areas, plus the teaching learning, especially for the management learners. Basically, I'm also a learner. I'm just sharing whatever little experiences I'm having. I will be feeling happy if any of the learned participants can just intervene me and we can have a discussions to when the this one point is hot and if you want to share something like that. Okay. Yes, all of us are aware about India's strong points. In fact, India is a young nation. So that's why we are very much proud of it. And at the same time, we must encase the utmost benefits that India is having today. Because 40% of the Indian population out of 1.25 billion, and now it's a 1.3, is under 18 years of age. That is quite young. And 54% of Indian human resource pool is under 35 years of age. That's a CII report given a few years back. And 65% of total population is in the working age group between 15 to 59. So that's why India is a huge country having such kind of a human resource potential. And at the same time, many of the developed nations today, ladies and gentlemen, they are in the aging situation. Even the developed countries like Japan, Germany, even in the US, they are having quite a good number of aging population. That's why there is a big issue for the replacement of the workforce requirement. So we can just have a look. The average age of an Indian, as of that, is a 26. By 2022, the average age of an India could be around 29 years. That means less than 30. US is 40 years, Europe 46, including Germany. Japan is 47, And by now it is increasing. That's why the aging population, taking care of these aging people at the same time, also to take care of the this requirement of jobs to be replenished by the young people, they are having acute shortage. So that's why when such kind of things are happening, India is now standing as a young country to provide all sort of a human resource requirement. That's why that's a big challenge today. And that's why the kind of a training and development we are supposed to have. And at the same time, we are to think about the employment avenues of our young people, because they are also having their own aspiration, their own standard of living, their own lifestyles. That's why there is a big challenge for the policy planners to provide the aspirations, to fulfill the aspirations of these young people. So that's why 12 million, 1.2 crore individuals is expected to join the workforce every year. And the requirement of about 11.92, that is about 12 crore skilled manpower by 2022 in 24 sectors. And now the sectors skill gap analysis is touching more than 40, and the number of requirements of in this skill gap analysis is increasing. So that is one we just see to it. But at the same time, about Indian higher education scenario, only 7% enter the university. Gross enrollment ratio, as we know, by 2018, it was 26.3. And then we have to increase it, and barely 1% takes up research. And there is a good number of people after 10 and 12 dropouts. That's to be addressed well. And as for the global landscape in higher education, for making gross enrollment ratio is a prerequisite for a rapid socioeconomic development of a country. 30%, but US is touching around 90%, 88.1. UK is 94, Japan is 63, China, for that matter, is 43.4, and India stands at 26.3. And that's why reaching 50% gross enrollment ratio is a must for India to be an economically developed country in the next few years down the line. So that is the kind of a thing happening, and that is very much concern for the policy planners. That's why it has been reflected well in NEP 2020. Well, some areas of concern we have to see to it, as I have already said, is about the vocational and the skill education, and all sort of a skill manpower requirement for Industry Revolution 4 because of the artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and blockchain technology, so on and so forth. And in fact, about the skill training, when we just see to it, there is a big differences what the other developed countries are having and what India is having. As per the reports given by the National Planning Commission, that's even today, South Korea is giving 96% of their workforces skill training before they join for any kind of employment. And Canada and Japan is 80%. Germany is 75%, UK is 68, and even the developing countries like Mexico, they are giving 24%. Whereas India is giving only 10%, out of which only 4% is provided in the formal training. 6% is in the informal sector. So that's why India's skill training requirement is trailing behind many other developed countries. That's why government of India is also giving much emphasis on the skill development. That's why we are to see to it about our young boys and girls. We have so much of young boys and girls who are ready for job, but are they really suitable for the kind of a job they're looking for? Then that is a big question mark. So that's why we are to see to it another aspects I just would like to share with the findings given by the McKinsey's Global Institute survey. They surveyed some years back. India produces approximately about 3.6 lakhs engineers every year. 3.6 lakhs, and 6 lakh graduates in arts, science, commerce together every year. Out of which, when they examine about their employability, only 25% of the engineering graduates are readily employable, and only 10% of the general graduates is employable. That means the employability aspect is very, very, very poor. And that's why even the NASDAQ also had done only 18% of the Indian graduates. That means take the average 25 and 10, then it turns out to be only 18% is readily employable for job. Others are not. So in this kind of a scenario, we are to see to it. How about the graduates' employability? Unemployment problem increases alarmingly day by day in every state. And how come our graduates are not that very readily employable in the job market? So that has to be looked into. So that's why they are lacking somewhere. That means when we see the employability, a set of skills, knowledge, and personal attributes that make an individual more employable. That means you can see to it the knowledge, skills, and attitudes. That means that for the holistic education, we are just focusing. One is the knowledge, the cognitive part, and the skills, the psychomotor components, how they are comprehensive in handling certain things, and the affective part, that is the attitude and behavior. So that's why, while just imparting any kind of education, for that matter, the technical education, engineering, or management, we are to see to it these three pillars. These are the three important pillars for imparting holistic education. That's why if they are having the right kind of attitude and behavior, then definitely they may be having more opportunities, or they may be having that much of benefits of getting employment too. So that is what we just experienced. Well, ladies and gentlemen, some of the points which we can just remember as for the effectiveness of graduate programs. That means when we talk of the skill attributes for employability, the human skills, that's one part, communication skill, what we do call is a soft skill, life skill, professional skills, and technical skills. So maybe some of our young engineers, they are having that much of communication skill, that's why they are not employable. That's why, what are the areas they are lacking? We need to provide, we need to fill up that gap. And that's why as a learner, as a teacher, we need to make some sort of a change in our teaching pedagogy so that our students can be aligned and they can be suitably acceptable in the job market. And for that, teacher and the taught both are to see to it what the industry demands. And accordingly, teachers are also to upgrade their knowledge. Skill upgradation, reskilling is again needed. So that's why we can just relook in our teaching pedagogy, innovative way of doing, and pedagogy and andragogy both can be used for our teaching learning purposes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the hard reality is we just see to it, educated unemployed youth increases alarmingly, sharply increasing. In the COVID-19 pandemic situation, the percentage of unemployment is increasing at a tune of up to 30-40%. Unemployment is 6.1 in the normal condition. In India, whereas the world is having about 4.9, whereas as on that is about 28%. So because of the COVID-19 pandemic, that meant there is a distress scenarios happening in the job market. Then self-employment and promotion of job-oriented enterprise is the ultimate answer we see to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, as a teacher of technical institutions, as a teacher of management, we can provide good employees to work for in various organizations. That is okay. But at the same time, we can also think of producing some of our young boys and girls to be the job creators in this tight job market. Only then the entire economic developmental things to happen in a developed nation or the state or the area or the region, the drivers of that economic development is the entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs only. So that's why, as a teacher, we need to encourage our young boys and girls to make themselves employable, themselves to create jobs so that they can gainfully employ themselves too. So that's why the NEP 2020 has given the stress on providing vocational education to 50% of the learners by 2035. That means if they are having exposure to this kind of a vocational trade, they can gainfully employed in one point or another, they can also become an entrepreneur. That's why the startup centers, incubation centers are to be established, especially in the technical institutions, management institutions, so that our young boys and girls who knows if they come out from that as a young startups, nothing like that, they can change the whole economic scenario. Even when this one Google came up, the entire California had changed, and Jack Ma had come up, and the entire small town in Zhejiang, this one Hangzhou, Zhejiang in China, they got huge change. So that's why if we can produce a few entrepreneurs, nothing like that, the regions can be developed, regions can be made into a dramatic change to happen in the years to come. That is the kind of a belief we have, and that's why we are to provide the right kind of a motivations to our young people so that their creative, talented, innovative ideas are to be nurtured well. Well, as we are quite aware, in India, we have more than 30 crore people living below the poverty line. That's why government definitely will be finding difficulties to provide the means of livelihood to each and everyone. And that way, we as an academician imparting education in management and engineering technology, we ought to think out of the box so that we may be able to contribute something. And for that, promoting entrepreneurship skill is very much need of the hour. So that is what I just would like to just share. The concern, obviously, the curriculum based on the industry demand, outcome-based learning, teaching learning processes, the entire curriculum is to be redesigned. And in fact, UGC has already given the directives to make the curriculum design in the LOCF, learning outcome curriculum-based framework. And experiential learning and problem solving, this is another. That's why I, in fact, want to touch upon the experiential learning in the teaching ratios as a part of the andragogy. Because in the adult stages, learning through experiences is more meaningful and is more understandable. If we teach something through some exercise, etc., that's okay. But if it is of sudden learning through the life experiences, through games, okay, through role plays, etc., the people's mindset could be changed. So that's why we can focus on the curriculum design, especially in the teaching learning processes, the problem solving, the creative ideas, etc. Then the other aspects about competition at the global level, engagement of students for internship, community engagements, etc., etc. These are part of the concerns too. So that's why these are the few things we have in even in the technical and management educations too, experiential learning, and also the innovation and entrepreneurship orientation should be made available. That is one. And of course, one important area of concern, India is envisioning to become a $5 trillion US economy by 2025. So that's why what could be the talent landscape India is supposed to have. Aligning talent landscape to meet India's vision of US $5 trillion economy by 2025. That's why we need to focus more on our young boys and girls to be more talented, more creative, more productive, more employable. Only then our economy will be flourishing. That is the one area. That's why here lies the importance of the role of teachers, especially in the engineering institutions, management institutions, the students who pass out from these institutions, at least they may be able to contribute in the economic development of the country. Yes, for that, academic reforms, innovations in curriculum, pedagogy, evaluation, teaching, learning process is a must. That's why we need to focus more on the problem solving, more on the creative ideas. And for that, I definitely would like to focus still case-based teaching is another area of importance for teaching management and especially even for the engineering graduates too. So that's why with that kind of a cases, they may be able to have a very good experience about the problem solving and various other aspects. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we can just see some remark I just wanted to give. As for the NEP 2020, it has a ambitious policy 2020. It has to do lot many things starting from the school, then encompassing about Anganwadi kids in the ambit of formal education system, then to the higher education ratios, etc. And even for the creative talents to be nurtured with the startups and technological centers, etc. And implementation not of is a very big challenge. How you can implement all these massive things to happen. So in fact, just like eating a big elephant in a day. So I must say that you cannot eat an elephant in a day. Whether you are veg or non-veg, that's the one part. I'm just talking the gist of the understanding. If you want to eat an elephant, you can eat piece by piece, slice by slice, bit by bit. That means if you want to just make India a big kind of a transformation to happen, you can't just start with small portion, some portions, year after another. In the next 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. So in the next 15, 20 years down the line, you can just project the kind of a thing what you would like to see in India or in our institution. So if India is to transform into a true knowledge power and realize a future of prosperity and growth, a radical change of the education system with quality and innovative teaching, the central is very much essential in the light of the global trend happening. So that is what we see to it. That's why NEP 2020 has given a roadmap, a vista for transforming India into a true global knowledge superpower in the next few years down the line. And for that, all the stakeholders are required to provide a commitment and conviction efforts to achieve this kind of things to happen. Okay, so that is what I see to it. And that's why, as for this session again, I just would like to share with you a little bit on the case study method of teaching and research. Because in the pedagogy, you have so many other areas, lecture method, others, role plays, or games, small games. The management games can be just taken up for the, this one, psychological changes, problem solving, decision making, etc. So now, teaching, learning methodologies. There are different methods people can use it. So that's why how you can look at the things. It varies from individual to individual, from subject matter to subject matter. But which one will be suitable, the best, we have to find it out. There is no single best strategy, ladies and gentlemen, to suit to all the kind of streams of study. Or there is no single best strategy which will hold true to all the companies, kind of a thing. And there is not a single best strategy which will hold true for all time to come. No, it is changing. So that's why from time to time, it is changing. From company to company, it is changing like that. From streams to streams, it is changing. So that's why we need to take care of those methodologies, which one will be suitable as far as your course, as far as your, this one, subject matter is concerned. But today, I just would like to just share about case-based teaching. So understanding about the case study, usefulness of the case study research, or sometimes a little bit on the writing of a case, because all of us are the faculty members of various institutions of reputes, and I hope all of you are quite aware about this thing. I'm also just sharing whatever little experience I have, and we can share each other, we can know each other. I definitely will be having an opportunity to get some insight from some other participants so that we can just learn together. That's not like I know everything and then I am just sharing to all of it. It's not that. It is just sharing of the information, ideas, and experiences I have. And you can also share more, and probably together we can learn much better. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we can just see to it why we use the case studies so that we can just ask. So that means every teachers can have their own questions, answers. Why we use case studies? Case studies will give you the real life example of certain companies, how they are just doing, and then how about their problem areas. There are multiple approaches to solve the problems. We do not know which one will be the best. By sharing this kind of a thing, you can just ignite the young minds. You can just open up the various probable areas of solutions. That's why once you studied all these things, once you go back to the market and experience similar kind of things, probably you may be better handle those problems in a effective manner. So that's why we can see to it about the case study based learning, steps in analyzing a case, common errors made in the case study analysis. These are a few aspects we can just see to it. Of course, we know we see to it, but different people can see from different perspectives. So that's why, as a learner of management, we try to see the things from all the angles. So whatever tips of the iceberg, which we can see by our naked eyes, just a tip. But the larger portion of the iceberg is below water. That means many of the things which we cannot see by our naked eyes is inside. So that's why it's a very challenging task for any of the teachers to understand those things which are below water. So that's why we can see the physical traits, the looks, etc. But somebody else's behavior, outlook, their value system, beliefs, etc., we cannot see by our naked eyes. But these are very, very important for dealing with people, for understanding their aspirations, so that you may be able to establish a good relationship too. Well, similarly, success is not always what we see. We can see with our just naked eyes or something, but what is inside, that may be different. So that's why let's try to look both the external as well as internal. So if you can see both, probably you may be able to take a better decision. That is the belief we have. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we can just begin with about a case study. What is a case study? Let's be a little bit interactive. Can anybody just share? Because I'm not just teaching, but I'm just sharing, my dear ladies and gentlemen. So what is a case study so that we can learn? Yes, anybody can on the mic. Probably if you can hear me, then you can also respond me. So that what is a case study, by the way?
Good afternoon, sir. I am Satvik, a research scholar.
Okay.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes,
please.
Case is a set of data, factual or imaginary, which contains some issue. Case is a set of data, factual or imaginary, which contains some issue. We need to identify solution for that particular issue.
Okay.
Whether it may be relating to an individual or a group, organizational, institutional problems.
Okay.
Solution
problem will be there. Problem
solution
has to be identified. We have to find out the solution. That's also true.
Yes, sir.
But any more ideas about the case? Yes. Yes. Case study is basically a story. Case, a story. A brief outline. You can just have a few paragraphs giving some sort of a story. Maybe a story. A vehicle for discussion, analysis, and learning. Or a puzzle that has to be solved. The kind of a problem which you say is a puzzle. Some sort of it's a marketing issue. It may be a HR issue. It's a production issue. It's a technological issue, or the issue of the customers' needed wants. That means the choice of the customers, the taste is not there. That's why even if this is a good quality, good packaging, good advertising, but taste is not there. Customer is not liking the taste. That may also be one of the reasons. So that's why when some problem is crop up, then what could be the reasons behind? You can just find it out. So that's why even identifying the right kind of problem is a good thing, because if you identify the problem rightly, half of the problem is solved. So that's why problem identification, analyzing this problem, and also the probable solutions for that, that definitely will give you some sort of a meaningful insight. So that's why case study is taken up as a method of teaching in management, especially in the strategic management, marketing, HR, or various other streams or the traits of functions of management. You can just see to it, or more than just a description. That's why you can take this case as a research tool also. So that is why. So that's why case. What is a case study? Because it can be the open-ended actual story, no ending given. Just stop, and then you can bring in for discussion. A typical problem may be a dilemma without an obvious solution. So solutions are to be found out. We don't say that this is the right solution, because it should be more or less in the open-ended, so that the students can start, discussing the probable areas. That's why if you just have these things, bring these things, these realities into the classroom, then the students can start analyzing. So that's why active involvement of the students is a must. If the students are not involving, then the case-based teaching is not that very fruitful. So that's why it is pioneered by Harvard Business School. No doubt all of us know it. Even the IIM Ahmedabad started, and they are just, this one started with the case-based teaching. Still, it is continuing, and it is becoming one of the most important tools for teaching management till today. So a case study, it examines the characteristics of a particular entity, the phenomenon, organization, or a person. So that is what we just see to it. So that's why by analyzing this case, we can just know many things. We will just cite an example. Say for instance, take example of, this we have MCL, Maruti Suzuki India Limited, the strategy of Samsung, how they are just doing about the mobile phones, etc., even Android, and even the strategy of Nirma washing powder. Okay, so because this is all, but still very interesting. All of us know about the Nirma washing powder, how it is able to compete with the big giants like Hindustan Unilever products. In fact, this Nirma washing powder, it is owned by Karsanbhai Patel, and when he started its business, started selling by driving a bicycle himself in Gujarat, Nirma washing powder. And today we are having a Nirma empire, Nirma University, and many other, this one, Nirma chemicals are there. But when you see to it, how about the strategy of Nirma washing powder? But when we see to it, Nirma is also selling, Hindustan Unilever is also selling, and then the P&G is also selling. There are so many other products selling. But if you study Nirma as a case in point, then you will learn so many beautiful things. Yes, Karsanbhai Patel started selling. All the raw materials is available, and during those days in the 70s, they started selling. In the 80s, they started selling. And in fact, in those days, using washing powder is something every common people in India can't afford to buy this washing powder for washing the clothes. And this is Surf, is doing Surf, Superwash, etc. And Nirma is selling in the low-end market, the very economical. The price of Nirma washing powder and the price of Hindustan Unilever, you can see to it, the price competition. I'm just sharing, it's just an example, it's a short case study kind of a thing. Okay, that means they sell it at a very low price. That is one part. And Hindustan Unilever is selling at a higher price. They keep on selling Nirma washing powder, and then every year they're accumulating, their profitability, etc., is increasing. And then by the time Hindustan Unilever opened up their eyes, it took around 13 years. And only after 13 years, they realized that how come Nirma is earning such a huge amount of profit by selling washing powder of that quality or that kind of a different segment of the market. So after that, they also introduced Will. Will came up after 13 years of Nirma's existence as a product competing with Nirma washing powder. So that's also one strategy. But the challenge which we can learn from Nirma is so many interesting stories are there. That means when Nirma they recruit 90% of their employees, they are all women folks. Is a one case study. Nirma is recruiting almost 80 to 90% is a women folks. And they have a flexi hours. Women coming from household jobs and work for some hours in Nirma in flexi time, they will be just getting some sort of a, this one, remuneration. So that's why they are happy. These women folks are happy to work with Nirma in flexi time. And that's why they are very interesting stories. Why they are just recruiting women folks. When you just examine minutely, one thing is women are employed in the flexi hours. They are not demanding much. They are not demanding much. Means no this one minimum wages act. Whatever is the amount they're getting, they're happy. Because every housewife, they want to get some sort of a earning as an extra for the, this one, income of the household. So that's why they can contribute something, whatever is the husband is earning. So that's why they're happy. That is one part. And if they are not demanding, they can pay lesser. Nirma can pay lesser. This is one. And as women folks are working, there is not much of this one, lockout, strikes, etc. If male folks are much, then problem crop up. So that's why this is the experience we got it from Nirma. So that's why when we write a case, one after another, the activities, every milestones happening in that very company, it has a meaningful implications for the strategy making and the strategy implementation too. Just an example. This is a case in point. And that's why they are selling at a low price. And even for the staffs they employed, you see, Hindustan Unilever, if they are employing, how about the travel costs? How about their, this one expenditure, the salaries? Nirma is not spending that much. So that's why they are becoming a cost leadership kind of a strategy company. So that's why they are selling their product at a low price. So that's why one way is about the raw materials, another is the employees, is now they are minimizing the cost. And one very important aspect when we just study about Nirma is aligning with the syntax, the overhead tank. All of us are aware about the syntax, right? The overhead tank syntax is also manufactured in this one, Gandhinagar. That's why wherever this empty syntax tank moves is filled with Nirma washing powder. And that's why across the country, when they move, both Nirma and the syntax moving. Syntax is a different entity. Nirma is a different entity. But as for the transporting of things are concerned, they combine. That means they are having the strategic alliances. So that's why the case in point, which we can see with Nirma's strategic alliance with the syntax, then their transportation cost is reduced to almost half. Who is benefited? Nirma is benefited. Then syntax is benefited. Then the whole country is benefited. So that's why they are able to save the expenditure to be anchored in various areas. That's why they are selling the product at a very low price. So that's why they're competing in this low price front. So that's why the strategy which we can learn many things. even in the transport, in the marketing, in various other. So that's why that is one. And how come this one, Nirma's, workforce is becoming so loyal? We just, when I was in Ahmedabad, we also just studied a few other cases, and then they just give the payment. Now in the olden days, those days, 20 years before, 30 years before, they used to give the payment by check. That means they're writing Anita Ben. That means when users give by cash while returning from office to the residence, almost 30-40% of their salary will be taken away by the market. That means my son asked me to buy these things or that thing. That's why when users come back home, that means you are having half the money. And you cannot show it all to your husband also. So that's why they just give a check by name, signed by Karsanbhai Patel. That's why when this Anita Ben comes back home and then she show it to her husband, look, this is a salary, I got it from Nirma. It's a signed by our Malik. Malik ka naam likha hua hai. So much of attached with that kind of a simple giving the salary by check in their names. That's why then the husband will also see, oh, this much amount you are getting. That's it. So that is the small things which we can just learn it from such kind of a company. So that's why our students are to be imparted that kind of a small innovative things the companies are doing so that they can practice these things when they go back to the real life situation. So that is what we can say to it. And of course, about the Maruti Suzuki, how come there was a big issue some years back? There was one of the manager was this one murdered during that kind of a thing. So that's why those instances could be some learning for many of the this one cases too. So that's why for a case study we will just see to it a little bit. A good case is a vehicle by which a chunk of reality is brought into the classroom to be worked over by the class and instructor. So it keeps the classroom grounded upon some of the stubborn facts that must be faced in real life situations. So that is what we do it. So that's why it's used as an important tool for learning, management, decision making, problem solving, the various areas of finding facts, etc. So that is what we do it. Usefulness of the case studies, we can just see to it about the case studies, usefulness of learning. Useful learning tool used in management education to give students a feel of the complexities in the real work and how the theories. So that's why by developing cases and we may be able to evolve some sort of a theories too. Okay, so that's why there could be some sort of a triangulation of the research methodologies in any of the resources. When the case studies is taken up, it can be used, and it can be used as a qualitative research method as well. Well, specific learning from the case studies. One area is to diagnose what the problems or issues in the case are and why they have occurred. To consider a variety of solutions, alternative 1, alternative 2, 3, like that, and to justify what you believe to be the best solution. And then we have to find out what could be the best solution. That's why students are not given any hints. Students are not given any kind of a thing. We sometimes do not teach any framework or the structure. If we teach the structure first, then they cannot think beyond that structure. So without studying any structure, framework, they are given openly the kind of a solutions they can make it. So by just pulling various other probable solutions, you can develop some sort of a pattern, and a structure can be formulated, a framework can be developed like that. So that's why it's used as an important tool for management decision making too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the steps in analyzing the case studies, a few weeks we can see to it. gain an overview of the case, just to summarize, establish what has happened. That means the problems or any milestones of achievement, major problems come across, any kind of a, this one, turning points in the business. So that means so many companies started with a single business first, then they diversify as a conglomerate or various other related areas of businesses, determine the causes. Of course, there are so many interesting stories, just like don't put all your eggs in one basket. So that's why all of your resources don't put in a single business. You can just have a multiple businesses, but series of this one entrepreneurs are coming up, serial entrepreneurs, how far it will be successful. And many of the frameworks, just like BCG matrix, etc., can be studied very well in some of the important cases too. So develop the possible solutions and evaluate these solutions and formulate recommendations. That's the steps of analyzing the cases. So that is what we just come across a little bit brief about the case studies. Then get an overview of the case, no doubt. Know the cast of characters. There may be some sort of a protagonist who is involved, who are their historical relationship, what consequences do they represent, understand the flow of events, and how did the problem arise? Is there a deadline for a decision? Determine from whose perspective the events are described. So that's why we have to sit with the related, maybe the marketing related case, maybe HR related case, maybe the production, the qualities, so on and so forth. So that's why cases can be established that way, the problems. We're just skipping a little bit. Establish what had happened with the business problems, etc. So that's even there is at least one fundamental business problem in every case. How to collect money from a deadbeat customer, but the issue may be broader. How can they reduce the loss, market expansion, the business diversification, or the product improvement, whatnot. We can just have many other issues too. But specify an objective for the managers involved. So that's also one part about the cases. So I'm just sharing a little bit these things because there are so many standard books available for that, but we can also just sit with, determine the cause and issues. But when we write a case, maybe in Lucknow, maybe in other parts of India, the cases, companies can have differences. Even we just sit with about the Hero Honda's case. Hero cycle is doing well in Ludhiana. That is a Bismol Lal Munjal's group. But where is the Hero cycle plant in Saibabad in NCR, Delhi? It's not that very successful. So that's why, what's the reason behind? That also can be looked into. But one important area of study is in Ludhiana, that is around Ludhiana, that is clustered by the Sindhi people, Punjabis and Sindhi people. Basically, they are, this one migrated from the erstwhile Pakistan kind of a thing in the bifurcation. That's why they have so much of commitment to work over there. Whereas in case of, Saibabad in UP, things are not like that. So that's why you can sit with even the same company in two different places, these things are not moving in the same direction. So that's why we can sit with, we can examine the various other issues confronting that company. So try to separate symptoms from problems. That's the one part. Then problem is another, symptom is another. So rank, order the critical problems. So prioritize. There are so many multiple problems, so we can prioritize one after another. So that is there. So develop possible solutions, etc. These are the few areas for the students to think about the several probable solutions of a case. Different solutions may need to be considered depending on whether the aim is to prevent, to salvage, to avoid, and any containment for that. Evaluate, then recommendations. So these are the few things we have. Now, write up solutions. It is generally a good idea to have students, groups write solutions to cases and hand in to their instructors. That means sometimes case discussion, what we do it, we form groups about 5-6 people and they just analyze. So that means one way is not only the solutions to the case problem, they know the group dynamics, how to work together, how they can share the ideas together, how they can just make some sort of a different opinions, and then how they will come to a congruence, to a common point. So that's also one part. That's why not only the solution, but the entire human dynamics, it can be taught to the students. So that's why we appreciate to use this case-based teaching. If the class time permits, instructor may call on various groups to present problems, and that's why you can have more diverse views of the problem solutions of the cases too. Okay, some common errors that's also there. That's the one part. So I'm just sharing these things, not integrating the various points into a preferred solution, but it's really an art or science of writing a case. So that's why the articulations of the case writer is very, very important. So that's why how you can just carry on the problems with that case that we have to sit away. And sometimes the error could be ignoring the practicalities, what could be the practical, pragmatic solutions, etc. But some of the cases which we can sit with as a good case, we have just come across. Some of our Indian cases are also now quite commonly used in the Harvard Business School too. So that means even the Dharavis, okay, in Mumbai, what's a good case study? Narayan Hurdalai's heart hospital, okay, just taken up by some of our Indian scholars. The Dabawala, of course, is quite famous. The Tata Nanos, the Indian Railways, the Pratham, the terror in the TAS Mumbai too. That means it's a very heart-touching, this one event happened in the terror attack in the TAS Mumbai. All of us are aware. And now the learning point, what we can just learn from this about a customer-centric leadership. Because when the terrorists attacked the TAS Hotel, that means how they could save valuable lives of their guests staying in that hotel, in spite of the fact that all the employees are having opportunities to escape from that kind of a situation. But still, they indulge and they try to save the precious lives of many. And in the process, many of the employees got sacrificed their life. That's also one part. But how come these things are happening? When you just examine the profile of the people involved, so that means how loyal they are working with that Tata company, that TAS. So we can just learn many things from that. That's a very, very interesting stories about the cases. That's why as a teacher, as an innovative approach in teaching management, we need to take up cases, case after case, specific cases, maybe for the leadership, maybe for the delivery system, just like Dabawalas, maybe for the social change happening in the Narayana Hurdalaya Heart Hospital, maybe for the Tata Nanos, why Nano, whether it is failed or whether it is successful, still there is a question mark, but still it is a appreciable job. How come this Tata Nanos concept crop up in the minds of this Tata group? And about the transformation of the Indian Railways like that. There are many other, things we can sit with in the pharmaceutical industry and various others too. Well, what is a good case study? Just to coming short, more than just an interesting story or a best practice study, it can also be used as a teaching tool. So that's why we can just make a good story and we can also imbibe the best practice study and it can be a teaching tool. That's why as a learner of management, we should make ourselves familiar to write a case, to use a case for study. And by just teaching a case in one hospital in my state, we write a case. And while writing the case, we just come to know, and then we started thinking of expanding the customer's base. And then we did the neighboring states and including the Myanmar. That's why Shita Hospital is the one case we have written. And then by writing the case and discussing many other, theories and internalization of the things, etc., and they started doing. And then through our case writing and discussion suggestions, they have picked up and they started expanding their businesses to various other front, and they are doing pretty well today. So that's why we experience a very good, things about writing the case, and that way it really gives an interesting insight for solving many of the management issues in the organizations too. So with that, the last part which I just would like to share with you is that case study, it can be used as a resource tool as well. It investigates a contemporary phenomenon within its real life context, especially when the boundaries between phenomenon and context are not clearly written. Okay. Case studies focus on understanding the dynamics present within a single setting. That is one part, but it has a limitation, because what is the setting behind? If you are not fully aware, then probably many of your assumptions may not be working well. As I have already said about the strategy of Nirma washing powder, that is one case study examines the characteristics of particular entity, phenomena, and even about the cases as exploratory or the descriptive. Case studies can be used to provide description, test theory, generate theories, etc. Yes. Three key principles of data collections in the case study research is the triangulation from different angles, case study database, chain of evidences. Evidence. From the evidence, that means the happenings, events, turning points, the milestones. These are very important things about the case-based research collection. Applications of the case study research strategy and the strategy making. Nestle and the top ramen. I just would like to share as an example over here. Till today, Chop Ramen is unable to get the gainful market share compared to Maggi in the noodle segment, because Maggi is reigning. More than 20 years before Chop Ramen entered, keeping the price low. All of us think that when we just introduce the product in the market, keep the price low, then you can get some slice of the market share. That is the kind of understanding. But now when Top Ramen entered with a low price, Maggi is a big giant, and that's why it did not want Top Ramen to enter its arena. Swoop down, how come it's coming to my arena? That's a kind of a mindset this Maggi is having. Maggi, all of us know it's owned by Nestle. Nestle is a big multinational company having so many other diversified portfolios. So that's why Maggi slashed down the price even below the average variable cost. So when Maggi slashed down the price below the average variable cost, Top Ramen can't afford to sell at that level. So that's why they are supposed to wind up. So that's why they had a tough time fighting with this Maggi. As for Maggi, they can make a few losses even below the average variable cost. They are having various other products, just like the Everyday, the Nestle, Nescafe, Nestea, and the chocolates, etc. So whatever little losses they are making in the noodle segment, it can easily be compensated from other portfolios, other product lines. But Top Ramen is not. So that's why you can see it in this kind of a competition. So by simply looking at keeping the price low in the introduction of this product, I think sometimes it may be very dangerous. It's a retaliatory deterrent pricing strategy adopted by Maggi, owned by Nestle. So that's why some of the strategic insights we can see to it when users study the cases properly. So if you do not, then probably you cannot. So that's why I still love to cite small examples as a case in point, not a very lengthy way of thinking, but smaller caselet doesn't matter. But these examples will give a meaningful insights for learning some sort of a concept and practical realities. So this is what we just experienced, Maggi's versus top ramen. Okay. So case study research, why people are doing these things, because this method is amongst the most flexible of research design and is particularly useful in researching issues related to sustainability and institutional system, especially for their decision making in the organization. So it incorporates a number of data gathering strategies, document analysis, surveys, participant, non-participant, observatory, etc., etc., or maybe an action research. So it has its own limitation, no doubt. It is confining to a particular company. Sometimes it cannot be generalized to many, but still it has a meaningful insight for decision making. So that's why case study research can serve a variety of functions, exploratory and testing theories, etc. Types of case studies, most favorable, exceptional, and critical cases, etc. These are a few things we can just see to it. Yes, generalization from the case is a one, this one. One's ability to generalize from the case studies increases with the number of case studies. If you have multiple cases, then you can have a cross-case analysis. You can just develop some sort of a pattern. So, however, one way to overcome the limitations of a small number of cases is to choose ones that have the greatest variety of characteristics. So that's why that way it encompasses range of extremes, from extremes to extremes. So two ends of the continuum. So that's just what we can just have about the generalization of the cases, but it has its own limitation, no doubt. Then when to choosing of a case, choice of a history, case studies, or experiment will depend on the access. We need to have access of the data. Many of the companies are reluctant to share the information. That's why, as an academicians, we have to maintain the ethics, the ethicality of writing the cases. Case studies preferred in examining contemporary events. Experiments are done when the investigators can manipulate behavior, etc. That means these are some of the theoretical things we have. We can also see to it about a cross-culture management. Even sometimes we can see to it about the ICSBC's cultural differences operating in different parts of the world. That's why every the city is having their own unique characteristics, but we need to sensitize these things. So that's why cross-cultural management cases, you can just write how ICSBC is successfully operating in multiple countries. We have many small case lists. I'm just skipping these things because of this online, sometimes it becomes inconvenient to share these things. Yes, case studies are focus studies, focuses of the study. That means individuals, communities, social groups, organizations, or institutions, or sometimes events, roles, relationship, and interactions. So that's why which we can just incorporate all these things. So that is one. But finally, but not the least, I just would like to share evolving case research portfolios, maybe business environment, strategy, maybe healthcare, social enterprise, entrepreneurship, agribusiness. All these things are some of the hot areas of the case studies to my understanding. So that's why we can think of having cases in these areas. Even the social entrepreneurship is another big areas for writing the cases today. And healthcare, obviously, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we can write n number of cases, not only for the healthcare, medical care, and the pharmaceutical, drugs making, and vaccinations, etc., but the social impact about economy, social distress, and many other things happening, even about the problems of healthcare workers. Sometimes they work in the hospital, they can't return to their respective homes because of the social issues, etc. There are quite a good number of cases coming up today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I definitely just appreciate Dr. Devi Shetty, how he just come up this Narayana Hudale. Is a very, very, this one, inspiring cases for the Indians and particularly in the healthcare sector. And we also just have seen our business school case, Manish Sabrawal, about putting India to work, Tim Lee's. I also would like to just put one or two observations about the problems of case study research. Ideally, one should avoid studying an issue solely from the perspective of one stakeholder. Try to bring in different viewpoints from various stakeholders. That means try to look at the point from different angles. Maybe many a times we try to see to it from my own perspective, but many people fail to see to it from the other's perspective. So that's why we have to be empathetic. That means try to put ourselves in the shoes of the others and look at that. Then what could be the probable solutions? So that is very important. So that's why as a case writer, we should not be biased. We should see to it from various angles, and only then we may be able to come up the issues in a holistic viewpoint. Yes, virtuous cycle, knowledge creation and dissemination. This is the two important things for any of the innovative approaches in teaching research. What we do it, we collect the research question, okay, data collection, publication, case studies as a publication in the form of books, in the form of journal articles, and then we disseminate information. That's why the research, data collection, everything we can do it. We can publish as a research paper. We can publish in the form of books. We can use that case as a teaching tool for the classrooms activities too. So that's why after writing the case, we also used to write the teaching notes in which direction we would like to lead the case to be discussed. So that's why some issues, some problems, some frameworks of the theories, etc., can be just taken care of. So that's why writing case is the anchor. One end is a research, the another end is a teaching. So teaching and research both can be used by the case study. So that's why the innovative way of making some sort of a meaningful insights in the teaching learning process is the case writing for the research and case writing for teaching. So that's why as a learner of management, I am very much this one giving importance to the case writing part. So that's why I know many of you might have done pretty well, but still I once again would like to encourage each one of you to think of writing a case, a real life case in any of the areas, maybe the problem of our society, problem of a particular company, problem of a particular school or institutions, even in the public distribution system, about the drinking water facilities, whatnot. We can write and we can publish, and at the same time, whatever is the solutions or the suggestions given by the students through the discussion, probably, who knows, it can give a one meaningful insights for better policy decision making too. So that's why research and insights is one, education, programs, testing hypothesis, etc., fresh case, revisions, articles, these are the ways of writing the case. So that's why in conclusion, many sources, forms, challenges for students and faculty, a powerful tool for teaching and learning. So that's why we can just take up this case as a point of discussion for teaching, learning, and as an innovative approach in our management pedagogy too. So these are the few things I just would like to share today, because by bringing in this kind of a case-based teaching, research, a little bit of nitty-gritty aspects of the case, we may be able to imbibe in the minds of the young people how they can just confront with the real life situation, wherever they move, wherever they go, and similar problems they may be confronting, and they may be able to judge and perform better. That's why we are envisioning to see our young boys and girls to be more productive, more competent in the decision making, and that way they will contribute to make our India a great nation by just making our human resources, the talented human resources. That's the development of a country is again very much dependent on the kind of a quality of human resources the country or the place is having. So that's why we are focusing more on the good human resources, good quality human resources India is envisioning to have. That way, in the next few years down the line, through this NEP 2020 and its effective implementation definitely will make a radical change in the human resource and talent landscape of the country. That way we can become a globally meaningful knowledge superpower in the years to come. With that note, I am very much thankful to each one of you for the patient hearing. And if any one of you would like to add some more viewpoints or some insight, I'm free to open for a discussion, please. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir, for an enlightening presentation on the right way. We appreciate having this era of blended area clarified with more how to write an effective case study, how to bring innovation in our teaching. Thank you once again, sir. Participants, if you have any question, you can write your query in a chat box, or you can directly unmute yourself and ask a question to sir.
Hello, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor. That wonderful presentations regarding national education policy. I read an article in the magazine of Forbes that Indian government focus on developing India as a world knowledge hub, thereby capturing the government intent to exploiting digital intervention in primary, secondary, and tertiary education. So my question is, does this pandemic, I mean COVID-19, taught us the academic fraternity worldwide rebounded with a digital intervention that allowed for continued academic endeavors? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that is very true, because the whole world is changing and we are now in the new normal situation kind of a thing. During this pandemic, we have made so much of changes taken place in the teaching, learning, and the entire activities of the education system too. So that's why we are to bank upon the online learning system, the digital modes, whatsoever is possible. So that's why India is giving importance to various stages, primary, tertiary, secondary, whatsoever. But still, to my understanding, India is experiencing a very good digital divide too. Okay, because such a large country, we are unable to provide enough, this one, smartphones to each and every household. So that's why the broadband connectivity, the net connectivity prevalent in far-flung areas, the hilly areas, that's to be looked into, and also the affordability of having such kind of electronic gadgets. So that's a big challenge we have. In spite of all these things, we are to transform ourselves. We are to find out all possible means. Even today, we are just having this webinar through the Zoom mode. There are various other platforms coming up. You have a Google Meet, and various other. So that's why, as these developments are coming up, students are also having their own, this habit of reading. We are very much fond of reading books in the hard copies, but today, young boys and girls, they are fond of reading in the mobile phones only. They are not just writing the diaries, in fact, they are just using the smartphones. So that's why the uses of the smartphone is changing, even for the banking, for entertainment, for education, for any kind of a transactions in their day-to-day life. So that's why we are also situated about the introduction of digital inputs to each and every student. And for that matter, teachers are also to be equipped well. They are to be well-versed, familiar with handling such kind of a new developments coming up, and the courseware, course materials are to be designed to suit this kind of a system. At the same time, government of India has to think to provide the larger access of this kind of a digital input to the last mile people, so that the entire education system can percolate benefits down to different sections of the society. That's it. That is the kind of a thinking I have. I know there are some limitations, but still we are to bang upon it and we need to strengthen the IT infrastructure and digital infrastructure. And for that, in the next few years down the line, whatever education we are having, we should be aligned with that. That's why focusing more on the IR4, Industry Revolution 4. The people which we will be needing is the people when the car is driven without driver. When the delivery system is taken care of by the drones and other, this one, AIs, artificial intelligence, robots. When the robots are doing all these things, what could be the areas where our people will be employing? So that's why this is a big challenge for the policy planners in a big country like India, how we can make our young boys and girls to be more employable and more productive. So that's why we definitely need to focus on that council. I must say it that way.
Thank you, sir. Yes, it is very much true that learning continuity in the realm of education, Industrial 4.0. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And please share your email address and the WhatsApp number so that we can communicate. My name is Khandoga Kamrul Hassan. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm an assistant professor of European University of Bangladesh and the international doctoral scholar at Tripura University, Agartala. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, please.
Sir, you are saying we have to go for a small case study. Then is there any appropriate criteria to select a small case study? Like which case we are going to select as our problem?
Okay. Case is a case, small or big, it should be. But case lead means writing the case in a short, okay? So that you can just discuss those things in a short period of time, within 1 hour, within, that is specified time, you can just use it. You can have a lengthy case that means integrated, encompassing all the functional areas of management, okay? That means the cases comprising of 30 or 50 pages. Sometimes it may be very lengthy to discuss with. But if you just write about 1 or 2 pages case, that can give you the case. That's also one part. But you just focus what problem you would like to describe out there. And then you just take maybe for a pharmaceutical company, maybe for a this one jewelry shop, maybe for a this one cosmetic item, maybe an agricultural item, doesn't matter. In what area you just would like to just build upon? About the distribution network, about the brand positioning, about the tastes and preferences of the customer, about the human resource management. Everything is fine, but sometimes people are not selling the items well. Because when you sit with everything is fine, the marketing is doing good advertisement, good production, but one problem could be people working over there, they are having the same kind of a commission structure. If you sell 100, if you sell 1,000, commission structure will be the same. So even if you don't, sell it well, then you are getting almost a salary. That means there is no motivation. Then why there is no motivation? Do you provide right kind of a training? And then you see the structure of the salary or the commission structure, then you can find out from this is the HR perspective. So that's why you just sit with different others aspect. That's an art, how you can amalgamate, how you can just make, just like, making a garland with different kind of a colors and then good setting. That's to be there. But case lead, make it small, then you can distribute it to the students also. And then students can read it, and then you can give around 5-10 minutes, they can read it, and then you can just discuss it. So that's why you begin with that. And after that, integrated cases can be brought in almost in the later part of the course when all the students have got exposure to various functional areas of management, internship to some companies, they have got some sort of a work experiences. After that, it will be more meaningful if you studied the integrated lengthy cases. Okay, so that is what I want to say. So as for the writing of a small case lead, in your nearby city, you can just pick up one company, small company, doesn't matter. And even a one restaurant which is frequently visited by many, but some other restaurant which are not, visited by many, their sales is down, but others are doing well. You can go and examine through observation, through few questionnaire, and then you can develop the reasons behind. So then you can develop a case. Why this dabawala is doing well? Why not the others? So that's why even the tea shops or the pan shop, it has so much of learning things to happen as for the management things are concerned. I hope I have answered your query.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, there is one question from Professor Virat Bhambe, sir, and he asked that what steps a person should take to make himself self-employed. Any book suggestion?
Yes. Okay. Yes. I'll just stop sharing these things. Okay. To get self-employed. Hello.
Sir, his question is, what steps a person should take to make himself self-employed? Self-employed.
Okay. Self-employed means entrepreneurship. Even if you're working in an organization, you should be having entrepreneurship kind of a thing. New, innovative way of doing, adding new venture, new activities. That way you can just contribute better in your organization. Similarly, for self-employed, why not? If you're working in some companies, you will be getting salary. Okay? That means people are earning on your labor. But if you are self-employed, you have to earn by your own labor, and you will be the boss. If you're working in some companies, you'll be working under somebody. But if you are just making yourself self-employed, you are the boss. So that's why you have a liberty to take decisions, and you have many more challenges. And earning is sky's the limit. So that's why you have to do something which many people are not doing at the moment. And you can lead the life which many people can't afford to live. So that's the kind of a mindset. That's why all these things depend on the kind of a achievement, motivation you are having. Okay? So that's why even so many entrepreneurs coming up, industry people coming up today, many are dropouts. Even in my place, there are very good doctors. They were getting very good jobs in the government sector, but they left. They started their own business. And today they are having, this one, the owner of many hotels, many diagnostic centers, and many other units coming up. That way, they are just not only self-employed, they are giving employment to thousands of people. So that's why it all depends on the kind of a mindset you are having. And today, Government of India is taking it up, startup programs, stand-up programs, any other innovative ideas you have. So many venture capitalists are there, angel funders are there. You can share your business ideas. Through the sharing of your innovative business ideas, why not? Nothing like that. Things can be changed. And even about our Ola's, Uber, and then Airbnb hotels, chains, they are just innovators. They are the new startups. And they are just becoming billionaires or millionaires in a very short period of time because of their creative talents. So if you are having some creative ideas, you can do it. But I won't suggest everyone should be self-employed, but it may not be successful. But if you have that kind of a commitment and conviction and your self-confidence, sooner or later, you definitely will become the boss of your world. So that is the kind of a spirit I just would like to propagate, and nothing like that. Why not? Many of our talented people working abroad, they are also coming back to India, started their own enterprise here, and they are the boss, and they are giving gainful employment to thousands of our young people here in our country. So that's why that also one part we can just suggest. So that's why In the NEP 2020, all the technical institutions, management institutions, for that matter, even the universities, should have center for startups, center for innovations, incubation. So if you are having some sort of a new ideas in young age, why not we incubate and then provide some sort of a seed funding, and you can be incubated for about 3 years or so, and then you can become a successful entrepreneur. Last time I visited to this one IIT Mumbai, they are having SIGN, Society for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, that is run as a multiple, this was separate entity run by IIT Mumbai and some other companies. They are just giving incubations to many of the young engineers who pass out from IIT Mumbai or nearby, and they just incubate IT related, tech-based, pharma-based, and many of them are becoming a very good entrepreneur today, giving employment to many. So that's why we as an academician need to provide right kind of ambience, right kind of motivation, right kind of information to our young, talented, creative, innovative minds, so that they can become self-employed, and at the same time, they are the job providers to many of our people in our country. So that's why that's the driver of the economy, I believe. I hope I have answered that.
Yes, sir, beautifully handled. Sir, one question from Professor Satvik S. Sir. He want to ask, in order to write a case study, consent or approval from organization and individuals are required?
Yes. If you just want to publish the case, sometimes the case you have written, you can just publish it anonymously, not mentioning the exact name of the company or the individual. But the entire data and the statistics or the events is the reality. So that is the one. That also you can do it. Or for any of the case writing, you should take the consent of the company. In their letterhead, case name so-and-so written by so-and-so, we don't have any objection, even using this thing. But we normally use it for academic purposes, not for any other business-related things. That we have to maintain that ethics, academic ethics we have to maintain. But at least consent is required.
Sir, good evening, sir. I have a question. This case study method is like a brainstorming session to find out the probable solutions of a problem. That's what I feel. And there is not a standard solution for a problem, right? So how the students will learn? They may come up with very good ideas, but which idea is correct and which idea is, how to assess that? That is the question, sir. Then how it helps in learning?
Okay. One thing about a case is the learning means if you just try to generate more alternatives for solution, that is itself is a learning. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Problem
I
solving,
agree with that. That's why I compared with brainstorming.
Okay, that's why I'm just coming to that. Brainstorming is the one, how you can just brainstorm the different viewpoints, different probable alternative solutions. That is one that you can just do it. And then through that case, you can also just make some sort of a good learning, the kind of an incident, the kind of a activities they have taken up, how they solve the problems within the case itself. You can have a good learning. That is one part. Besides this brainstorming, you can also use this case study as a method of teaching for teaching some structure, frameworks, or any kind of a theoretical models. So for instance, take the example of the Michael Porter's competitive strategy. You can just have the Porter's diamond, okay, you can just see to it. You can also just take up any other cases about total quality management, how total quality management is done. But before you introduce this kind of a framework, etc., what you do it, you just straight away give the case, discuss it. After so much of discussion and various other probable solutions, etc., finally you can just have all the this one nitty-gritty aspects of the problems, then come to that kind of a framework. So that's why it can be suited. Even the BCG matrix, you can just use it. There are so many good examples how the BCG matrix could be, just use it. So for instance, take example about Whirlpool. Whirlpool started with the refrigerator. They introduced it after successful introduction of the Whirlpool. They have just coming up with the washing machine. So that's why Whirlpool refrigerator could be a cash cows. And when the cash cows is there, means in the BCG matrix, what it is there, large market share, but the industry is not growing. Industry has become saturated. But now it's becoming a cash cows, but doesn't have a bright future of the industry to be growing. Then you identify a new product, a new, this one, question mark, a new baby. So that means they have introduced this refrigerator, washing machine. So refrigerator, washing machine. Then they have just invested whatever is the revenue they are having to washing machine. So that's why this kind of a framework, there are so many things you can see to it. You can see to it even in the Maruti Suzuki India Limited, how many products are there, which product, which brand, which model is in which quadrant. You can just see to it. So many 2x2 matrices are available. Then with the use of cases, you can just fit in so many. You can take the example about the ITC conglomerate. How many products ITC is having? Starting from cigarette to paper, then to hotels, then to another FMCG new products, just like the cosmetics, bingos, food items, etc. Newly, and this one, IT e-chopper. So that's why where these products are fitting in that kind of a BCG matrix, that users develop the case and then start discussing. Then finally you can broaden that kind of a matrix framework. So that's why case studies can also be used not only for the brainstorming, discussion, problem solving, but also to illustrate some of the models, frameworks, structures of management theories. That can be done because I cannot just explain here at length, but you can just see to it. It can beautifully use to illustrate some of the established models or the frameworks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. I missed that perspective. Thank you. Thank you for enlightening.
Okay.
Sir,
Thank you so much.
Sir, there's a question from Professor Amit Rawat. Sir, I want to know about seed fund in incubation center. Means how much is it necessary?
Okay, for these incubations, etc., it varies from your, this one, project to project. So in the MSME, in the MSME, one project is costing about 10 lakhs, up to 10 lakhs, they can just provide, beyond which you have to get it from other funding agencies. So that's why who is providing that kind of a project, that also to be looked into. So there are VCs coming up, venture capitalists. There are some other ministries, even you can see to it in the DBT, Department of Biotechnology, Biomass hubs are coming up. So maybe biotech related, entrepreneurial venture, you can just see to it about 50 lakhs, or it varies from project to project. So how you'll be using it, and in the next 3 years down the line or 5 years down the line, will you be able to scale it up, and will you be able to make it profitable? That project analysis is to be done thoroughly. So that's why in the next 3 years, I may just get the break even, and then another next 2 years that I may be getting this much of profitability. So employment, profitability, problem solution, social benefit, social cost benefit, there are some other aspects to be discussed to it. So that's why, what is the actual problem? How much is the cost required? And how about your input? And then what is the background, your team? That's also very important. And today, we have just, taken up for AR and VR. That means augmented reality and virtual reality. Maybe about industrial visits. Sometimes we do not know about industrial visits. Now you can just see to it through that kind of a AR and VR modes. You can see the entire, things. And you have drones. Drones are using for camera, for capturing camera, various other things. Drones are used for, this for transporting some of the goods. But now, today, one single drone is to be handled by one console. But can you just have multiple drones to be handled by a single console? That means a single person sitting over here can handle about 10, 15 drones operating simultaneously. Then nothing like that. So that's why you can have more opportunities of doing business about logistics, transporting into various other far-flung areas, especially during this COVID pandemic. For delivery of food supplies to multi-story buildings, you can make use of these drone facilities too. So that's why you have to just identify the project, how feasibly you can work it, and then how far it can scale it up in the next few years down the line. That's also very, very important. So that's why project, there is no limit as such. It all depends on your kind of a project and your kind of a business idea. So that's why if you have a very good business idea, nothing like that, you can just touch the sky. That's the kind of a confidence I just would like to assure to you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thought and experience with the whole BBD ITM, as well from different participants from all over the India and abroad. With this, I would like to request Meitei to give a brief vote of thanks to our resource person.
Thank you so much.
Meitei, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks, and it's an honor to have been asked to offer a vote of thanks on the occasion of such an informative and interactive session to all the dignitaries who have witnessed it as a memorable and successful third day of faculty development program. For the successful completion of today's session, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to our honorable resource person, Professor Ibohal Meitei, who graced us with his thought-provoking address. You have explained in such a nice way the concepts and ideas of NEP 2020 and innovative pedagogy, case-based teaching, and research. Thank you very much, sir, for such an informative session. I would like to thank our chief patron, Mrs. Alka Das Gupta ma'am, chairperson of BBT Group of Education, and Shri Virat Sagar Das ji sir, president of BBT Group of Education. I would like to thank our patron, Professor Dr. Bhavesh Kumar Chauhan sir, director of BBT ITM Lucknow, and our advisory, Professor Dr. Manish Singh sir, HOD of Department of Management, BBT ITM Lucknow. I would like to thank our organizing secretary, Dr. Shivangi Tiwari ma'am, assistant professor of Department of Management, BBT ITM Lucknow, without whom this FDP would not have been possible. And I would like to thank our student coordinators, Ashana, Aditi Amit, Mansi Mohanan, Nimish Gupta, Ritik Gupta, and Palak Gupta, MBA first year, for assisting us throughout the program. I thank all the participants for showing their interest in the faculty development program. Once again, thank you all for participating in today's session. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to call upon Aditi Amit for further announcements. Aditi, over to you.
Thank you, Meitei. Participants, there is one announcement. A feedback link has been shared in the chat box. You are requested to submit your feedback. After receiving your feedback, we will send you the assignment within an hour on your provided email address. Now, ma'am, with your and HOD sir permission, shall we wind up the session for today?
Yes, sure. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Director, sir, shall we wind up the session?
Please, ma'am. Thank you very much. It was an honor really listening to Professor Meitei. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.